The NFL Combine's over, and we're going to go over some rookies that you need to watch throughout the offseason, especially when it comes to pro days, the NFL draft, player values, and everything else as we lead up to your Dynasty rookie drafts. We're going to cover them today. Before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now because we're talking rookies every day. We're talking Dynasty rookie drafts every day. We're helping you with your trades. We're looking at these prospects. Click that button right now. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. Don't disappoint him. We're looking at our first player here, Bashal Tootin. Toot is looking at us, and he killed it at the Combine. We knew it was. He's a rocket on tape. He's got speed to burn, productive at Virginia Tech. Looking at the numbers here, 4.32 40-yard dash, speed score elite. Top tier, top speed score in the class, so we have to talk about him again today. Elite burst score, good size, above 200 pounds. So on the right team with good draft capital or okay draft capital, ability to climb a depth chart, and if he gets his opportunity, this could be a guy that shows up and does something for you in fantasy. A target share above 10%, 10.2%, which is solid, rock solid at 80th percentile. Dominant rating, 90th percentile. Everything's looking good. He was an afterthought in the high school recruiting scene. He was an afterthought. He got picked up by North Carolina A&T, made the best of it. 1,300 yards in 2022, 13 touchdowns. Then we hit the portal. We go to Virginia Tech. First year there, 10 touchdowns. Leads team in rushing. 863 rushing yards. Catching 27 balls. 3.74 yards after contact per attempt. He shows you the ability to be an afterthought in high school. Then blow up. Hit the portal, go to another school, blow up, put the stamp on things with 15 touchdowns. He showed you that. 4.4 yards after contact per attempt, 62 missed tackles. He showed you that. So he also demonstrated the ability to go from college to the NFL and be able to learn a new system, climb a depth chart, and possibly produce. He has the potential for that because he's already shown that to us twice now. And in the passing game, what I like about this, 2023, 2022, 2021, yards after the catch per reception, 11.3, 10, 25.4. I imagine that's limited reps, so that's skewed, but still. Less routes ran in 2024, but we were carrying the ball more. We were getting more opportunity. That being said, that means he's a rocket when he has the ball in space. We know this from tape, but the numbers also saying it. So when they marry together, they blend together. That's good, especially with the combine metrics. The market, we're watching that, especially with the mock draft database here. It's going up. It's been up and down. It's a deep running back class, so don't be surprised if draft capital is so-so. However, we're looking at a running back here that's very explosive and in the right fit. Could go to the moon in dynasty value and rookie drafts. Could jump up to the second round. Could definitely do that. A lot of people's talking him up. I've seen it in my comment section too. A lot of people are excited about him due to what they saw at the Combine. He does have some production to his name. And honestly, right team, right fit. And you could see him just getting some opportunity and taking off with it middle of the season, late in the season, maybe even next year sometime. That could potentially happen. But I can say that about damn near every running back in this year's class. That's the funny thing. You don't normally get to do that with a normal draft class. That being said, Tootin's got some upside. We know why. We know we got the production. We know we can carry the load a little bit. We know we can catch the ball in the backfield. And we're watching where the stock ends up. But Devin Neal, different story. A lot of people are a little sour on what he did at the Combine. But you know what? We had 20-some running backs with a 70-some percentile speed score better. That is standout. That is solid. Devin Neal coming in with a good speed score. That's okay. 53rd percentile. 4.58 40-yard dash at 213. But his production profile is rock solid. From wire to wire, he was carrying the load for Kansas. Burst score is there. And that's what you really want to look at. The burst score. The long speed's good. And it also is an indicator for inertia at the point of contact, but also the burst score. He's got some pop in the step. 4.58's not slow. It is not slow at all. So he has enough gusto to hammer it home for you. And also with an 85th percentile dominator rating, that held solid. all throughout his career at Kansas, and also getting over 10% of the targets, and 81st percentile target share, you're looking at a damn good running back here. Coming out of high school, very good recruit. 4-star, 3-star in the composite, but Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma State, big-time programs looking at him still. Kind of an afterthought, 212 overall, but still pretty up there when you look at an entire recruiting class and looking at what he did at Kansas. We kind of went off as a freshman. We were watching him from afar in Devy leagues when he was doing that, and we were drafting him the next year by the masses. A lot of people was. 1,000 yards back to back to back. That's hard to do at the collegiate level. He was also getting work in the passing game. He was also very dominant. Yards after the catch per reception, 10.8, 10.6 over the last 2 seasons, so we can be explosive when we get the ball in space. We got some upside there in the passing game, so there's some good stuff here with Devin Neal. Considering what we saw at the Combine, his size-adjusted speed score, I don't think teams are going to care that much. But on top of that, there's other running backs too with good profiles that have better speed scores. So he might get lost in the minutia a little bit. But yards after contact, he's solid. 3.73, 3.63. Creating missed tackles. 3.34 yards after contact per attempt on his career. This is a running back that's solid, that could carry the workload for a team. Can be a good 1B back even because he's good between the tackles. He can grind it, but yet kick it outside, catch the ball out of the backfield, jack of all trades. Right now, mock draft database, just like a lot of these other running backs that are in the shuffle here, looks like going to be a mid-round selection. But I look at it more like market sentiment of like what people are thinking. I don't trust the media. I don't trust people doing mock drafts. They don't know. They don't really know, and they don't have an idea. But when I look at him, I look at a guy that's probably going to go somewhere in the middle rounds. Could be late day 2. Could be early day 3. We could see a couple running backs that we really like with good profiles fall late day 3. And they're going to be great values for their NFL team. They could still climb the depth chart. Their team will have sunk costs invested in them, so they got to get to work to climb that depth chart. But still, that's still good talent. That could amount to good fantasy production. And we're also looking at Matthew Golden. Big time producer at the Combine. 4.29 40-yard dash. A lot of people talking him up. Speed score 91st percentile. 5'11", 191 pounds. He's a talked about prospect. A lot of people saying, hey, this might be a first rounder. He's locked into that. Odds have increased. Let's just say it that way. That's probably the safest way to say it. Odds have increased, and it's a good bit. Target share is a little bit low for a wide receiver. Breakout age is okay at 20. And then his college dominator rating is a little bit on the low side. His target share at Texas last year, if you use the PFF stats, is around 16%. But I don't think they're counting all the targets anyways. That being said, you look at Matthew Golden here at 5'11", 191, 4.29 40-yard dash. And what you see on tape is him breaking off routes, creating separation, good over the middle as well. Very reliable. I believe in the right spot. Houston Texans, a team that can push it. Somewhere in the back half of that first round could be a good wide receiver for you if you're looking for a wide receiver in the back end of the first round of rookie drafts. However, we all know what the strategy is, though. We're looking at running backs. But you do what you want to do here. Looking at him coming out of high school, 4-star prospect, ranked 25th in the rankings, 29 in the composite, 26 offers. That's a huge indicator right there. The college football market wanted this kid. A lot of teams were interested in him and what he could do on the field. Had good speed coming out of high school, ran a 10.93 100-meter time. Not really blazing it top tier, like 10.4s, 10.5s, 10.6, but still a good time. We're in the 10s. Like I always say when looking at these prospects, we're in the 10s. That's all I care. We got speed to burn. So we had speed to burn back then. We were there, and we were able to showcase that speed at the Combine. Looking at what he did at Houston, not super productive. 38 catches, and then 38 catches again. 58 catches his final year at Texas. 987 yards and 9 touchdowns. Some of those stats were buoyed because Isaiah Bond was dealing with an injury too, so something to think about, especially when you look at the games where he went off at against Georgia, and then Bond had some injuries around October with the ankle. That being said, limited experience blowing up. He only had 3 games with Texas where he had 80 yards or more, and then he had, 4 games with Houston where he had 3 yards or more. His big game against Georgia with 8 balls caught, 162 yards, most notable contest he had, unless you want to count the Arizona State game, 149 yards and a touchdown. That being said, we can be productive. However, we weren't dominant at the college level either, so that's something to look at. That's something to note. We weren't dominant. We weren't the top guy. Isaiah Bond was the most lucrative wide receiver in the offense. However, when you think about talent, you think about wide receivers, it's also like a money ball to position right now. Right timing, right space, right opportunity. His skill set fits a fit. It could be good for you in fantasy football. Like the metrics, like we've been using these last 5+ years ago, they're going to start to shape up to where they hold true when you're looking at average, when you're looking for the players that you should be chasing on the top end. However, for the outliers, those are going to pop up a little bit more. And the reason for that is kids coming out of high school are more technical compared to 5 years ago. And they may not produce off the rip at college, but that doesn't mean they do not have the technical skill set to develop, sharpen off of their baseline, because the baseline's higher compared to what it was a few years ago. So would not be surprised when compared to the production metrics, the dominator metrics, that he exceeds expectations, especially in the right team, right system. What is an indicator for me, now you see me go back and forth, that's kind of what you want with analysis. 13.5 average depth of targets. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but I want a deeper ADOT because deep ADOTs fuel fantasy production. So if targets are sparse, I don't know if that's a word, or up and down or volatile in this offense that he goes into, if there's another wide receiver soaking up the targets and he's getting like a 20% target share, a 13.5 ADOT or an ADOT in double digits could at least give you some top end weeks, week to week, and that's something to look at. We got potential for that. We showed you that in 2022 and 2024. That's a good thing to note. And looking at what he did in the Texas offense, we led the team in targets. We got that opportunity. And like I said earlier, it equates to like almost a 17% target share rounded up. But I do not believe they get all the targets tracked appropriately, however, when they have these in the list. Because sometimes it just feels a little off. Let me know what you think and what you've gathered before. But we ran a lot of routes, 469. Gunnar Helm, 489 routes, the most routes ran on the team, but he ran more routes than all the wide receivers. Isaiah Bond probably would have surpassed him, though, if he was healthy. He had to get cut back in some games, had to be on the snap counts, had that injury, and then redid the injury after that in the back end of the season. That being said, we're looking at this team, and we only had our leading wide receiver not surpass 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. But this is what I want to show you. This is where the targets were at. So we're not getting manufactured touches behind the line of scrimmage. We are getting some shorter touches, but that's a good thing. That fuels his baseline. That also is an indicator, if you don't watch tape, you've never watched this guy play, that he's breaking off routes over the middle. Over the middle, off to the sideline. So we're breaking off routes, we're creating separation, we're getting those targets. If you've not watched him play, I suggest you at least watch highlights. And this is the only thing you saw. This is suggesting that he's breaking off routes, getting targets in areas where you got to break off those routes pretty pristine to create that separation. Unless you're fighting against zone coverage, so that's not going to be always the case, but you also got to know where that is, the timing and everything else. We're looking at a very technical wide receiver here that could gel well in the right offense, that has speed to burn, that's very explosive. And he's going to fuel a good ADOT at the college level unless they decide to manufacture him touches, but then that's extra volume going his way. But you can also push it to him downfield. They didn't do that too much at Texas. He had 11 targets at 20+ yards per PFF. If they're right, they're right. They're wrong, they're wrong on that number. But still, those are opportunities that could increase at the NFL level due to opportunity. Matthew Golden could be a first-round selection. They got him pegged to the Washington Commanders. Maybe the Debo trade might change that up a little bit. Maybe not, but we also got the Texans. We also could be a luxury pick for another team. That being said, Matthew Golden, late first round, is highly likely. if not early second round. Depends on what these teams do in free agency, which there's not much to work with. And this is a lighter wide receiver class, which could help him or hurt him. They might have that stank on the wide receivers where they don't care as much, or they might pay up for him knowing that there's a big drop-off in tiers, or they got a guy they're just going to go after in third round or something like that. Matthew Golden is highly likely to get drafted higher than what he was prior to the combine. Matthew Golden was put on notice by the media, and as we know from Hard Knocks, from some of these teams, what the media does impacts them. Unfortunately, you think like they're actual scouts and they have scout know-how, but front office GMs, they got the paper out, they're reading articles just like us, and that impacts partially on their decisions. We've seen that, it's documented. Not all the time, not set in stone. We never talk in absolutes. You should never do that in any facet of life. That is life advice I gave you. But Matthew Golden, odds are stock's increasing. RJ Harvey, I just want to talk about him. I like him. One of my favorite running backs in this class. Very productive. 4.44 40-yard dash. Elite burst score. Elite speed score. 5'8", 205. I think he's going to be a great discount in the NFL draft. Middle rounds, late rounds. It really depends on how this draft shakes out. Because we had rumors that the Cowboys are not looking to draft a running back in the first round. Because they know how deep this running back class is. And other teams are going to follow suit with that as well. So that's going to cause some running backs just fall some slots. And we've seen this in other deep classes where the position well is vastly deep. And we see some players fall a little bit. And now they're drafted maybe a round later, half round later, whatever it is. RJ Harvey's a good player nonetheless. Paying attention to him. I'm drafting him a little above ADP. Probably no matter what. And 13 offers coming out of high school. Not the most sought-after prospect, also a dual threat, so recruit a little bit differently. However, we're at UCF here, and we go off in 2022. We had some injuries that we had to deal with. That's down there below me. But 3.88 yards after contact per attempt last year, 3.56 with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 22 touchdowns rushed, 16 the year prior. We were the offense. We were the guy. So we got the production metrics right here. We got the athletic metrics to back it off. And now we're looking here. We're dominant all throughout our career. Just blowing up. These are all his games of 80 yards or more. I don't know why I use 80 yards as a stopping point. I just kind of just started doing that a couple years ago. But if you like 75, you do you. If you like 60, you do you. If you only want to look at 100, you do you. I just use it. Oklahoma State, Iowa State, BYU, Utah, Oklahoma, some big programs, small programs. Anybody that wanted to go up against them, they had to get it. RJ Harvey, again, I don't hold this to concrete. Teams are going to do what they want to do. Mid-round selection somewhere. He's got a strong profile. He could go higher than expected. He could go lower than expected. It's a weird market for this year's draft due to how deep it is at running back. There's going to be a portion of teams that want running back that's just going to wait because they know it's deep in talent. And there's some teams that's just going to pay up and get their guy. And that's going to cause some teams to wait a little bit. And it's also going to cause some teams to double tap the position because they're going to catch running backs at value. So don't be surprised if some of these teams draft 2. And maybe one team or 2 will draft 3 running backs from this year's draft. UDFAs are going to be rather important this year. UDFAs are going to hold a lot of value. So after the draft, you need to pay attention to what these UDFAs are doing. Because I guarantee you there's going to be like 10 UDFA running backs, if not more, that we're watching like a hawk. Unlike last year, we kind of did not care that much. And I'm not saying he's going to be UDFA. I'm kind of just talking that's how deep this class is. That's how deep we're working with. It's going to be a weird market. Damian Martinez, one of my favorite running backs in this year's class. I like him in the middle rounds. I like him for any NFL team. Looking at what he did at the combine, not a lot of people talking it up, but he did okay. He did okay, and that's all I ask. Honestly, that's all I ask. You can place the track. I love it. But if you do okay, I love it too. 6 foot, 217. You did okay. I love it too, and I like you cheaper. I like that. Coming out of high school, we weren't recruited. We got an underdog story. What do I like? Underdog stories, undrafted free agents, deeper prospects. I liked him coming out of high school. I liked what I saw out of Oregon State that freshman season. Year 2, we lit it up, 1,100 yards. We hit the portal, top running back in the portal. Everybody wanted this kid. You should have saw social media. Pay attention to the portal. It's kind of fun to pay attention to, guys. Pay attention to the portal because it's going to give you little clues and little storylines as it leads up to draft season the following year. 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. What does that show us? What does this show you? Not just production. It shows us that we can go from high school to college and transition, produce, acclimate to the game. We can go from Oregon State to Miami, transition, learn a new program, learn a new system, and be productive. So now we're going from college to the NFL. It's not going to say it is, but it's going to say that there's a highly likely, a good possibility that he can get to his new team, learn the system, learn the offense, acclimate, gel well with new coaches and everything else, and be okay. In the receiving game, 17 catches, 11 catches, small sample, 11.4 yards after the catch per reception, 11.1, 15.5. At Miami, they got good wide receivers. They got good pass catchers. They're jacked up at tight end as well. This is a team that has a lot of competition in the passing game. They had them run the ball. On top of that, yards per carry, 6.1, 6.1, 6.3. When you're into 5s in college, it's okay, it's good, but you want to be past that, 6, 7. We're at 6.2 on his career, 2 different programs, 4.46 yards after contact per attempt. This is a good running back, guys. This is a very good running back. Might get drafted higher than expected, might fall a little bit. It's a weird market, but you got to know these players, know what their profile's about. We went off against a lot of teams. We did well against a lot of teams, a lot of big programs. We had Deion Sanders' number. We had his number. We had Iowa State. Shedeur Sanders weren't playing on the defensive side of the ball. Travis Hunter was, but this is a different cat at running back. This is a guy that can be productive, that can dominate, take over games. They're expecting him to be a mid-round selection. 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round. Again, don't hold this to concrete. Don't hold this. Just look at it, take it in, think about it as market. They don't know. Nobody knows mock drafting. They're kind of just picking names, and it's deep at running back. All it takes is one team to pull the name. But what you do need to know is this is a strong profile at the running back position in all counts. Even if we fall a little bit in the draft, this is a guy that can climb a depth chart. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Well, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video.